Let's acquaint ourselves with the Base Station 2's oscillator section. The oscillators within a synthesizer give us the raw timbres and tones to then shape using the filter and amplifier. The Base Station 2 has two oscillators selectable with this switch, as well as a sub-oscillator, which slaves to oscillator 1. We can see all of the controls for the oscillators here on the front panel, as well as the pitch bend range and osc sync switch on the on-key functions. The waveform and pitch range of each oscillator is selectable with two push buttons. And we can set the coarse and fine tuning using these two knobs here. The coarse tuning knob is displayed in semitones and therefore very useful for setting intervals between the oscillators. Whilst the fine-tune control is displayed in cents and therefore useful for simply detuning the oscillator slightly. There are two knobs for pitch modulation. One modulation source is the modulation envelope, so this is particularly useful for creating drum sounds. And the other modulation source is LFO1, so we can add vibrato, or send the oscillator into more alien territory. Both modulation depth controls allow for the modulation sources to be inverted, and are therefore bipolar. The 0 point of each control exists at 12 o'clock. The last knob allows us to control the initial point and modulation depths for the pulse width of each oscillator. Note that this is only audible when we have the pulse wave enabled. Using the on-key functions, we can enable oscillator sync between the two oscillators. This is particularly useful for some 80s style lead sounds, especially when oscillator 2 is modulated with the envelope. If I bring up the sub-oscillator level on the mixer, we can then hear the sub-oscillator tracking oscillator 1. We also have three different waveforms available for the sub-oscillator: sine, pulse, and square. We can also pitch the sub-oscillator either an octave below or 2 octaves below. So bringing the levels of the two oscillators up, as well as the sub, on the mixer, we already have some fairly thick timbres. At the mixer section, we can also find the noise source, the ring modulator, which takes outputs from oscillator 1 and 2, as well as external sources before they're passed through the filter.